Heartwarming moment, Millionaire discovers an incredible truth after hearing boy's desperate cry. On a bright Saturday in Lincoln Park, the air buzzed with laughter and the scent of fresh produce. Amid the colorful chaos, a small booth stood, adorned with handmade wooden toys crafted by a loving father, Jake. His lively 7-year-old son, Max, bounced beside him, joy radiating from his every move. But beneath the surface, despair hovered like a storm cloud. Despite the laughter around them, Jake and Max were fighting a losing battle to keep their world afloat, an impending foreclosure casting a long shadow over their modest life. "Look at this one, Dad!" Max exclaimed, holding up a bright red toy car, his eyes shining with delight. Jake smiled, pride swelling in his chest, as he ruffled his son's hair. Every piece crafted from the heart was a reminder of happier times with his late wife. Yet, today, as the crowd flocked to shiny, plastic competitors, a familiar pang tightened in Jake's gut, an ache that echoed the fears of failing his son. "Max, we just need one family." "Just one," Jake reassured him, but his voice hid the tremor of genuine worry. Max nodded, though disappointment flickered in his eyes like the waning sun. "Help! Please, someone help us!" Max's innocent voice cut through the murmur of the market, a heartfelt plea that sliced through the noise. The crowd quieted, heads turning toward the boy standing with his father. It was a cry of hope mixed with desperation, and in that moment, it caught the attention of none other than Peter Thornfield, a businessman wrapped in the cold, empty embrace of corporate success. Peter paused, his heart squeezed by the raw emotion radiating from Max. It was as if a distant echo of his own childhood had reached out, reminding him of the joy and warmth he had sacrificed on his climb to the top. As he approached the booth, he could feel the energy shift. Jake and Max stood before him like a beacon of authenticity amidst a sea of superficiality. "What's going on here?" Peter asked, his voice low yet inviting. Jake glanced up, startled by the sudden attention. There was a moment of hesitation, pride threatening to choke him. "We're just trying to sell our toys," Jake replied, forcing an even tone. But inside, he felt a million conflicting thoughts swirl. Would this man see him as just another charity case? Peter listened as Jake shared their story tales of hard work, love, and the struggle against a world that seemed determined to pull them under. As he absorbed the weight of their reality, he felt something shift within himself. Should he help, risking the judgment of his affluent circles? Or should he remain a bystander? Before Jake could finish, Peter faced the crowd gathered nearby, frustration flaring up. "This family deserves better," he declared, hope igniting within him. The gasps from onlookers echoed around them, thickening the air. "I want to partner with you. Together we can revive this toy business while keeping its heart." The atmosphere crackled with tension as Jake's heart raced. Could he genuinely trust this stranger? Just then, the moment crumbled when a voice pierced through. A representative from the bank stepped forward, dire news fresh on his lips. Jake's stomach twisted in fear. The weight of foreclosure loomed heavy as uncertainty consumed the air. What would he choose in the face of this imminent crisis? Suddenly, the world around them stood still, leaving only questions hanging between them. Could Jake swallow his pride and empower their dreams through this unexpected partnership? As silence enveloped the scene, Jake's mind raced. The representative's stern face blurred into the background, his words sounding like distant thunder. A part of him wanted to push back, to assert that they were fine, that they didn't need a handout. But another part, deeper and more vulnerable, recognized the glimmer of hope Peter offered. Max, sensing the weight of the moment, reached up, tugging on Jake's sleeve. "Dad, what's wrong? Did we lose our booth?" His eyes, usually bright with dreams, were clouded with worry. That look hit Jake like a freight train. In an instant, he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was fighting for his son's belief in a better future. "No, buddy. We're okay," Jake replied, forcing a smile, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Peter stepped forward, his demeanor warm yet firm. "Let us not focus on what's happening now. Instead, let us turn this into an opportunity. You have something special here, something built with love." His words dripped with sincerity, the tension in the air easing slightly with the weight of the crowd's attention resting on him. Jake swallowed hard. He had spent his whole life learning to be self-sufficient, carrying his grief and responsibility alone. The thought of partnering felt like reaching out to save a drowning man. But could he take that leap? The bank representative shifted impatiently, waiting for Jake to respond. You don't understand, he interjected, the bank needs payment by Monday or it's over. Jake clenched his fists. As the reality of their situation crashed down around him, he realized this moment wasn't just about toys. It was about survival for Max's future, for his family legacy. My dad always told me to trust my gut, Jake murmured, eyeing Peter, who met his gaze with an unwavering look of understanding. What do you have in mind? The crowd held its breath, caught in the web of Jake's decision. I want to invest in your business, Peter stated, the conviction in his voice lifting Jake's spirits. We'll turn this into something extraordinary. Together, we can establish a brand that people will love and remember. This can be more than a booth at a market, it can be a beacon of joy for children everywhere. Jake's heart surged at the vision laid out before him. A glimmer of possibility sparked in Max's eyes, temporarily pushing away the clouds of despair. This could be the lifeline they desperately needed. But what if I fail? Jake's voice wavered. The weight of potential failure loomed like a shadow, a lingering fear built from years of hardship. Then we learn and grow from it together, Peter replied emphatically. You're not alone in this. I'll be by your side. Jake studied the man in front of him. Behind the suit, he sensed a heart ready to embrace hope. Could he really trust him? It felt terrifying yet thrilling, like wandering into the unknown with a hand to hold. A soft tug at his sleeve drew his attention down. Max's face shone with eagerness and belief, as if he could already see the limitless adventures ahead. Can we, Dad? Max echoed, his voice firm and bright. Can we do it? The words struck Jake like a lightning bolt. Following that glimmer of hope, he found strength in his son's innocent trust. Okay, Jake said finally, almost breathless. Let us do it. The crowd erupted into murmurs of excitement, a palpable shift in energy. Questions danced around, and as laughter began to return, the world felt a bit lighter, filled with newfound possibility. Just then, the bank representative stepped forward, anger seeping through his controlled posture. You don't have time to waste with dreams, he interjected. You're still going to lose everything. Jake turned back to him, defiance dawning in his eyes. Maybe, but it's worth fighting for. As if igniting a spark, he suddenly felt a wave of determination surge through him. Little did he know that the real battle was only beginning. As the bustling market resumed, uncertainty still lingered, and Jake knew he was racing against a ticking clock. Would this bond with Peter be enough to turn their dreams into reality? Would he find a way to save not just the business, but also their family? With one glance at Max, his heart flooded with the fight that lay ahead. The question loomed, what would happen when the world outside learned the truth about their partnership? The noise of the market swelled like a wave, drowning out Jake's thoughts. Flashes of color and movement danced around him, but all he could focus on was the pressure behind his ribcage, a tightness that threatened to swallow him whole. He could still feel the rough texture of his booth's table under his fingers where he clenched them, searching for clarity amid the chaos. Max's unwavering hope radiated beside him, small but fierce. Jake stole a glance at his son, whose eyes sparkled with an innocence that momentarily softened the harsh reality they faced. That glimmer was enough to remind him that taking risks sometimes held the potential for immense rewards. What do we need to do first? Max asked, bouncing on his heels. His enthusiasm was infectious, a bright light in the dim cloud of stress hovering over Jake. Peter stepped further toward the booth, a smile etched on his face like a beacon. First things first, he said, we need to identify what your business truly stands for. Your passion for making children smile, it has to be the core of everything we create together. Jake nodded, slowly absorbing Peter's words. For too long, he defocused on surviving, not realizing that they could thrive. The toys, Jake began, unsure where to lead. They're handmade, you know? Each one carries a story. Peter's eyes brightened. Then let us tell those stories. Jake felt a meek sense of relief wash over him as they started to sketch ideas on a napkin right there at the market. They brainstormed names, colors, and the type of memories they wanted to invoke. Laughter bubbled between them, a hint of camaraderie that felt new and exhilarating. In the corner, the bank representative folded his arms, a scowl resting on his face as he mulled over the impromptu meeting. The crowd around them began to grow, whispering, drawn in by the unfolding collaboration. Word spread quickly, and suddenly, Jake found himself more than just a booth operator. He was the latest buzz in the market. Max tugged on Jake's side again, a bright grin breaking through the worry lines on his face. Can we have a name like Adventure Toys? Something fun. Jake chuckled, feeling warmth flood through him. Adventure Toys, I like it. It speaks to kids' imaginations, something every child should have. The crowd buzzed with excitement, parents whispering to one another about how this duo could reshape their playtime. Each idea they unraveled felt more alive than the last, each one building connections beyond just toys. For the first time in a long time, the harsh weight of impending doom was replaced with curiosity for the future. But as the brainstorming session continued, shadows loomed. The bank representative still lingered nearby, his impatience palpable. Jake's thoughts drifted back to the hard deadline he faced, each tick of the clock a painful reminder that dreams could slip away before ever getting a fighting chance. Peter noticed Jake's shift in mood. Look at the positive momentum we're creating. But we must act fast. Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself. You're right. It's time to tackle this. We need to contact old customers, ramp up our marketing, and make sure we're ready to present not just toys, but experiences. Max jumped with excitement. Can we have a launch party? Absolutely. Peter replied, his enthusiasm infectious. Let us make it a community event. Get families involved. As discussions unfolded amidst cheers and laughter, lingering doubts crept back into Jake's mind. What if people didn't believe in them? What if the money wasn't enough to carry them through the lean times? Max's hand squeezed Jake's. Dad, we can do this, right? In that moment, Jake knew they were all in this together. The risk came with deep fears, but maybe it also came with extraordinary rewards. Then, just as he felt the first tendrils of hope shoot through him, a new voice punctured the energy around them. Are you really going to gamble everything you've worked for on a pipe dream? Jake turned sharply to see a familiar face weaving through the crowd, a rival booth operator he had known from years past. Doubt crept back, wrapping around his heart like a vice. The crowd quieted, tension rising as Jake faced this new challenge. Would he let fear overtake him once again? Would he stand firm in his resolve or allow someone to tear him down at this critical moment? The world held its breath, waiting for his choice. Jake's heart raced, his thoughts swirling. The murmurs of the crowd faded away as he locked eyes with the rival booth operator, a smug grin plastered on his face, like a wolf ready to pounce. What's the matter, Jake? Lost your nerve? The man taunted, folding his arms across his chest. The laughter around him, that joyous sound, suddenly felt like nails on a chalkboard. Jake clenched his fists, feeling the rough wood of the table press into his palms. He had spent so much time preparing for this moment, working late into the night, crafting dreams into toys for children. But now, standing there, doubts bubbled up inside him like a toxic brew. He glanced at Max, who was watching him with wide eyes filled with an earnest faith that was almost painful. In that moment, he realized that it wasn't just about him anymore. This was about the boy beside him, the child with wild dreams and bright hopes. It was about all the kids who would smile at the wonders he created. Yeah, I'm gambling everything, Jake finally responded, his voice steadier than he felt. But it's not a gamble. I'm investing in something real. The crowd began to murmur again, their interest peaked. They were no longer just observers, they were potential supporters. Jake found his voice growing louder, more passionate. These toys aren't just playthings, they're keys to imaginations, to adventures in their backyards and at bedtime. I believe in that and in the joy they can bring. Max beamed up at him, his trust bolstering Jake's confidence. He could feel the warmth of excitement rising from the crowd. Parents were nodding their heads in agreement, sharing small smiles, hope reflecting back at him. He stepped closer to the rival, not backing down. I understand that some think this is foolish. But what is life without a little risk? Are you going to tell me you've never dreamed? The rival's smirk faltered for a moment, fingers twitching as he tried to regain control. But Jake wasn't done. He glanced back at Max, resting a hand on his shoulder. Every child deserves to dream, and every parent deserves the chance to help them keep that dream alive. A ripple of applause broke out around them, supportive shouts mixing with cheers. The atmosphere shifted, buzzing with energy as their community rallied. Peter looked over at Jake, pride gleaming in his eyes. That's it. You've struck a chord. Let us harness this momentum. We need to keep talking to them. Jake felt a sense of purpose surge through him, driving out the lingering shadows of doubt. This was what he wanted, it was his chance to build something that mattered. But would it mean enough to turn the tide for them? Just then, another voice broke through the noise, this one softer but equally piercing. What about us, Jake? Can you really make these dreams happen? It was an older woman from the crowd, her eyes questioning yet hopeful. Caught in the spotlight, Jake's heart thrummed in his chest. I want to just make toys, he replied earnestly, looking around them. We're going to create experiences and memories that will last a lifetime. Together, we'll make it happen. Cheers erupted again, vibrant and filled with hope. Yet, even amid that warmth, uncertainty curled around his heart. What if it was all too good to be true? What if, as they took those next steps, something big or small threatened it all? As he took a deep breath, he felt the weight of this new beginning rest on his shoulders. Would they really find a way to take all this momentum and turn it into something lasting? With the crowd buzzing around him, Jake knew they were at a crossroads, but where would it lead? The future felt closer, yet so uncertain. As he looked back at the crowd, ready to embrace this moment, a sudden clatter echoed through the market. A pile of toys had fallen from another booth. Gasps pierced the air, and he turned to see a small child crouched on the ground, wide-eyed, staring at the chaos. Jake's heart skipped. What did that moment mean for them all? Before he could fully comprehend the scene, Jake found himself moving towards the child. The boy was no older than 6, his small hands shaking as he looked at the toppled toys, colorful pieces scattered across the ground like fallen stars. There was a look of panic in his eyes that tugged at Jake's heart. Hey there, buddy, Jake crouched down, lowering his voice to a comforting tone. It's okay. Let us pick these up together. As he knelt beside the child, eager hands reached out, and Jake quickly joined forces with him. Magic wands, plush bears, and cars began to find their way back to their rightful places. With every toy they gathered, he could feel the atmosphere shift again, tension giving way to a sense of unity. Max joined them, his small fingers deftly picking up a fuzzy dragon. Look, Jake. It's just like the one you made. He exclaimed, holding it up as though it was the most precious treasure in the world. Jake smiled at Max, but the twinkling joy in his heart was overshadowed by the boy's panicked gaze. What is your name, pal? He asked, hoping to ease the child's anxiety. Tommy, the boy whispered, his eyes darting nervously between the toys and the crowd. Tommy, we're gonna get this all cleaned up, and then I promise you can help me create even more amazing toys. How does that sound? The boy's face lit up a little, hope sparking in his eyes. Really? You mean it? Absolutely, Jake replied, holding Tommy's gaze steady. Every dream matters, and you know what? You can be a part of that. Your ideas can help turn them into something real. As they worked, Jake felt the crowd's energy grow around them. They loved watching this moment unfold, smiles replacing the earlier apprehension. He stole a glance at the rival booth operator, who now stood gritting his teeth, watching helplessly from a distance. With the final toy returned to its place, Jake stood tall, brushing off his knees. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, but Jake only had eyes for Tommy, whose worry had transformed into a beaming grin. You did great, Tommy. Jake said, clapping him on the back. now, let us show everyone what we can really do together. The cheers from the crowd swelled, and the rallying spirit resonated louder than before. With momentum building, Jake turned back towards them, ready to ride the wave of excitement. "All right, everyone. Who's with us?" Jake shouted, his voice carrying through the throng. "We're not just making toys, we're building a community of dreamers. Let us create a place where every child like Tommy can let their imagination fly." The response was immediate. Parents were raising their hands, kids were jumping up and down. Hope had grown vivid in the air, a collective sense of possibility filling the space between them. But as the cheers surged, Jake caught sight of the rival booth operator once again. A flicker of something dark crossed his face. Was that anger? Or was it desperation? Jake felt a chill wash over him. Were they really on the brink of something amazing? Or was it just the beginning of an uphill battle? In that moment, doubt crept back in, whispering that this wouldn't just be about dreams. There were unseen challenges waiting, lurking just out of sight. Let us make sure to stay united. We're in this together. Jake shouted, but inside, his heart raced with trepidation. Would this community really be able to turn dreams into reality? Or would shadows of uncertainty loom larger than the light they were creating? With a crowd on the verge of a breakthrough and rival intentions still unclear, Jake knew he was standing at a pivotal moment. What would happen next as they took their first steps forward into the unknown? The roar of the crowd filled the air, but beneath the cheer, Jake sensed an undercurrent of tension that made his skin prickle. He turned back to Tommy, whose small hands were still clenched around the dragon toy. The boy's excitement was palpable, but something in his expression hinted that he was still afraid. "Hey, Tommy," Jake said, kneeling down to eye level. "You okay? You know you can talk to me if you're scared." Tommy shrugged, but didn't he look away? "What if they don't like what we make?" he whispered, and Jake's heart sank at the raw vulnerability in the child's voice. "Some people will love it, and some might not," Jake said gently, brushing a stray lock of Tommy's hair from his forehead. "But it doesn't matter. We're creating something special for you and all the kids. That's what counts." Encouraged by Jake's words, Tommy nodded slowly, determination creeping back onto his face. They turned toward the crowd again, which had swelled, each person now leaning in closer, eager to see what they would create together. "Who's ready to let their imaginations fly?" Jake shouted, his voice rising above the noise. The buzz of anticipation rippled through the crowd. Hands shot up all around him, and a rainbow of voices erupted in agreement. But just as triumph seemed possible, Jake noticed the rival booth operator again, lurking in the shadows, a storm brewing in his eyes. "Let us get to work," Jake urged, feeling the excitement spark within him once more. They gathered around a makeshift table filled with supplies. Crayons, fabrics, and spare widgets were scattered about like pieces of a puzzle waiting to be solved. Max joined them, his face flushed with enthusiasm. "What should we make first?" he asked, eyes wide. "What about a dream machine?" Tommy suggested, bubbling with newfound confidence. "One that can make your dreams come true." Jake squeezed Tommy's shoulder, proud of his big idea. "I love it. Together, we'll build something that brings dreams to life." Collectively, they began sorting through the materials, the energy surging as laughter and chatter filled the air. It felt like magic, an unstoppable wave of creativity sweeping through the crowd. But amidst the fervor, Jake kept stealing glances at their rival booth. The operator was now scribbling notes furiously, eyes flaring with something sinister. Jake's gut twisted. Was he strategizing ways to sabotage the moment? As visions of beautiful toys filled their minds, doubts clawed at the edges of Jake's imagination. What did the competitor have planned? "Okay, everyone," he called, rallying everyone's focus. "Let us bring it in. I want everyone to share one idea, no matter how wild." Hands shot into the air, eager voices chiming in one after another. The room filled with colors of dreams: an adventure spaceship, a giant teddy bear that could fly, and a roller coaster made of candy, all igniting excitement. but just then, as a child shouted out a particularly whimsical idea, the operator stepped forward. Loudly, he sneered, "This is pathetic. You think you can compete with real creativity?" Silence gripped the crowd, and all eyes shifted to Jake and Tommy. The essence of hope hung in the air, fragile yet vibrant. Jake's heart raced as he felt the crowd's anticipation mix with uncertainty. Would his community stand strong against this challenge? "Hey! This is about dreams," Jake yelled, fighting back the wave of doubt swirling inside him. "They matter. Everyone's ideas matter. Isn't that right?" The crowd murmured in agreement, but doubt lingered. Jake felt the pressure build, the moment teetered on a knife's edge. Could they drown out the negativity? As Jake looked at the faces around him, a tapestry of hope, fear, excitement, the stakes had never felt higher. Would they rise together, or crumble under pressure? With the universe of creativity at their fingertips and a rival ready to strike, Jake knew this was just the beginning of their fight. What would it take to keep their dreams alive? Jake could almost feel the collective heartbeat of the crowd as he stood before them. There they were, all those eager faces, each one a canvas of hopes and fears. The rival booth operator loomed behind them like a dark cloud, but Jake steeled himself. "Let us show him what imagination really looks like," he shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. He could sense the shift in the air as the kids responded, excitement bubbling up again, breaking through the thick layer of doubt. Tommy, standing close, glanced up at Jake, and for a moment, the fear in his eyes vanished, replaced by an ember of courage. "Okay, Dream Machine." Jake rally-channeled the group. "Let us get our supplies organized. Who's got ideas for what we can include?" The hand shot up again, but this time the ideas came flying faster. "Colors that glow," a girl yelled, her ponytail bouncing as she jumped with glee. "What about a sound that makes you feel happy?" chimed in a little boy with bright glasses, his enthusiasm infectious. "Let us make it big," chimed in Max, waving his arms as if to physically express the size of their dreams. "Just like a dragon," Tommy shouted, his earlier fears forgotten, and Jake felt a part of his spirit soar with the boy's words. "Whoa! A dragon that breathes glitter." "Yes. We can add glitter, so much glitter," Jake echoed, laughter surging through the crowd. Encouraged by each enthusiastic shout, they hastily started crafting, their laughter and chatter intertwining like a colorful yarn, but even as joy bubbled, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on him. He turned slightly, just enough to see the rival operator scribbling with renewed fervor, a smirk plastered on his face. "Hey, don't you have something better to do than watch us?" Jake called out, annoyance and fear weaving through his thoughts. The operator, unfazed, simply arched an eyebrow, his stance oozing confidence. "You'll need it, kid, after what I have planned," he shouted back, the challenge laced in his tone. Jake's stomach tightened. What exactly was he planning? The children were lost in their creativity, but Jake was consumed by an urgent need to protect them. He moved closer to Tommy. "How are you holding up, buddy?" For a moment, a shadow of doubt flitted across Tommy's face. What if he does something mean? What if we fail? Failure isn't the end. It's just another step on the way to something great, Jake said, hoping to instill confidence. You have the best ideas, and together, we're stronger, right? Tommy nodded, and though fear remained, so did the glimmer of hope in his eyes. As they worked, the children began to sing softly, a tune of determination. The crowd swayed, caught up in the atmosphere of creation, and for a moment, the world outside their bubble faded away. Then, and it was like a movie, the rival operator stepped forward. "And now, for my brilliant idea," he announced, loud enough to cut through the melody. "Since you kids are so cozy here, I think I'll take away your supplies." Gasps echoed through the crowd, tension snapping like a rubber band. Jake's heart raced as he darted toward the operator, determination surging within him. "Hey! You can't do this!" he yelled, stepping protectively in front of Tommy and the other kids, their expressions shifting from shock to solid resolve. Watch me, the operator smirked, hands outstretched, ready to strike, but Jake refused to back down. He locked eyes with Tommy, then the whole group. It doesn't matter what he does. We'll figure this out, together. As the crowd surged behind him, united, Jake felt something incredible building. They were the pulse of creativity against the dark, and he was ready to fight for every dream that sparkled in that space. But would it be enough? In that moment, a thought sparked within Jake's mind, fatalistic yet full of hope. What if we flipped the script? He murmured to himself, glancing back at the kids. Would they be able to turn the tide against fear and negativity? Would the dream machine rise above even the worst of the storms? Jake felt adrenaline rushing through him like wildfire. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife, but he knew he couldn't let fear win. He looked out at the kids, their eyes wide and anticipating, each face a mix of uncertainty and excitement. We can do this, he shouted, his voice rising above the commotion. Let us turn this around, right now. Tommy shifted nervously beside him. What if we don't have enough stuff? What if he really takes it all? Jake knelt down, bringing himself to Tommy's eye level. Listen, it's not about the supplies. It's about what we can create from our hearts. That's what makes our dream machine special. He felt a spark of warmth, the kind that comes from knowing they had something powerful together. He turned back to the crowd. Who else with me? He hollered, raising his fists in the air. The kids erupted into cheers, their voices rising in a united chorus of hope and determination. Jake could feel the vibration. This was their moment to shine. Let us use what we have. All hands on deck, what's our first step? He called out, jumping into action. I have these old boxes, shouted a girl clutching a stack of cardboard. They can be the body of something amazing. Paint. We need paint. A boy yelled, darting to grab supplies across the table. Others rallied around him, quickly grabbing anything they could get their hands on, each piece of scrap transformed into potential. Jake watched as Tommy joined in, gathering bits and pieces to add to their work. He threw himself into creativity, enthusiasm bubbling back into his expression. If we make a dragon, let us make it fly, like magic, he declared, the air thickening with excitement. But Jake knew the rival operator was still looming, a dark shadow in the background with a cunning smile. He had to keep his eyes on the game. Our dreams are bigger than his tricks, he whispered to himself. We'll show him. As they worked, a sudden silence engulfed the crowd. The rival operator stepped forth, his arm extended like a magician revealing a secret. And now, I bring you a surprise, he announced, dramatically. One that will definitely put an end to your little daydreams. The kids froze, apprehension washing over them. Jake felt the pulse of stark fear, the kind that made his heart race and his palms sweat. No, he shouted. You want to stop us? He stepped forward again, bravely placing himself squarely between the children and the rival operator. What you don't understand is, we have something you can't take away. Our imagination is powerful. The rival operator blinked, caught off guard by Jake's fierce declaration. Look around you, Jake urged, gesturing to the kids who were rallying behind him, bursting with ideas and creativity. We're stronger together, and we won't let you bring us down. For a moment, uncertainty flickered across the operator's face. But then he regained composure. Relying on hope? How quaint. Hope, Tommy shouted boldly, can create magic. His voice rang clear and unwavering, and a wave of collective courage washed over the crowd. Jake noticed the rival's smirk falter. This isn't over, the operator spat, but the certainty in his tone wavered. As he retreated a few steps, Jake turned back to the kids, and in their eyes, he saw a fiery resolve. Let us show everyone what we can do together. The energy shifted again, an invisible string weaving them all closer. As they resumed working, a brilliant idea struck Jake. What if we create something so captivating, it could turn his negativity into wonder? He looked at Tommy, who smiled wide, the kind of smile that said, I'm ready. Let us make this the best dream machine ever. They shouted together, a battle cry that echoed across the fairgrounds. But in the back of Jake's mind, the question lingered, could they really turn the tide of doubt into a celebration of creativity? And would they be able to capitalize on their momentum before it was too late? Jake didn't waste a second. With determination spreading through him like an unquenchable fire, he gathered the kids around. All right. Let us brainstorm. What can our dream machine be? He filled his voice with enthusiasm, hoping to ignite the same spark he felt within. A spaceship! Yelled a girl, waving a piece of metal like it was a wand. No, no. A roller coaster. Tommy jumped in, eyes sparkling at the thought of speed and thrills. The ideas burst forth like popcorn under heat: giant robots, magical castles, even underwater worlds. The air buzzed with creativity, at odds with the tense atmosphere that the rival operator had brought. Jake felt it, every child around him alive with imagination, ready to defy negativity. We can make it all. A roller coaster that flies in space. It could go through a castle made of candy. Jake declared, his own excitement bubbling over. Their laughter filled the space, scattering the shadows that had temporarily crept in. Each child was busy cutting, painting, and assembling pieces of junk into something spectacular. As Jake worked, he felt light but focused, like he was floating on the crest of a wave, riding the swell of a shared dream. But in the midst of their creativity, doubt creeped in once more. The rival operator loomed nearby, watching with hawkish eyes. Jake could see the wheels turning in his mind, plotting how he might strike again. Suddenly, the children gasped. Look! One pointed, and they all turned to see that the operator had pulled out a bag of fancy, shiny decorations, things that glimmered brightly under the sun. Who needs scraps when you can have the best? He jeered, shaking the bag like a trophy. Jake felt a lump rise in his throat. The glitzy items could easily overshadow their humble creations and snatch their hope. With his heart racing, he turned to the kids again. Remember, it's not about having the shiniest things, it's about heart. Our imagination is what makes our machine unique. But what if everyone likes his stuff better? Murmured a boy near the back, his voice almost a whisper. Jake swallowed hard. Then, let us give them something that's true, something from us. For a second, silence fell again, but then Tommy, with newfound courage, stepped forward. Yeah. Let us make it colorful. Let us make it us. The others echoed his sentiment, voices ringing with determination. With a collective focus, they returned to their task. They painted, glued, and created something extraordinary from their scraps, a giant, swirling dragon made out of cardboard and hope, its wings extended wide as if to embrace the sky. As it took shape, Jake could almost hear the echo of a heartbeat in their creation. It was no longer just art, it was a message, a legacy of their dreams and battles. But just as the dragon's tail was being glued on, an ominous shadow loomed closer. The rival operator strode toward them with a confident swagger. Looks like you kids think you can take on a real challenge. But can you beat this? From behind his back, he revealed a massive machine, chrome and polished, a contradiction to the grassroots dream machine the kids were forming. Jake's stomach knotted. He could feel the fear creeping back in. What could they do now, surrounded by doubt and glitz? Showtime! The operator exclaimed, reveling in the moment of tension, and in that heartbeat's pause, Jake realized it wasn't just about flashy objects. It was about belief, the belief that their creation could inspire and bring joy despite the looming risks. Let us show him what we've got. He yelled, his voice breaking through the fog of uncertainty. But deep down, Jake began to wonder, would belief alone be enough to overcome such polished distractions? He looked at Tommy, who nodded resolutely. The dream machine stood tall, but the question lingered, could their collective hope stand firm in the face of such overwhelming odds? In the face of that sleek, shiny machine, Jake felt like he was David against Goliath. The crowd hummed with anticipation as the rival operator bragged about his creation, its allure glimmering in the sunlight. But Jake knew the truth, the real magic lay not just in what's seen, but in what's felt. Kids, this is our moment. he shouted, pumping his fists to rally the troops. They needed to turn the tide together. The toys didn't just need to sparkle, they needed heart. Remember why we're here. It's about finding joy, sharing dreams, and making every child's imagination come alive. Tommy stepped up, eyes ablaze with determination. Our dream machine is about fun, he declared, pointing to their dragon that now seemed to shimmer with life. It can fly through fantastical worlds. Yes, Jake echoed, feeling that fire spread like a wave. This dragon can do things a machine like his can't. It can transport kids to places only they can imagine. The crowd began to buzz again. Parents leaned in, intrigued by the power of pure passion over polished metal. Hearts that were heavy with doubt started to lighten in the presence of joy. Children shouted out ideas. They envisioned adventures, laughter, and tales that would echo through generations. The rival operator's face soured as Jake's words struck a chord. You think you can beat my machine with a pile of scrap? He scoffed, disbelief oozing from his voice. Yet, there was worry etched across his face. Not just a pile of scrap. Jake shot back, emboldened by the energy swirling around him. This is a collection of dreams. And we'd rather embrace our truth than hide behind glitter. With renewed vigor, the assembled crowd drew closer to the monstrous dragon. Each child contributed their essence, a colorful patch here, an imaginative crayon stroke there, stories pouring into the very fabric of their creation. The dragon grew, expanding in form like their dreams taking flight. People began to cheer, hands clapping to the rhythm of hope. Somehow, it felt contagious. Parents nodded, smiles breaking across their faces, and the once concerned kids joined in the laughter. With every sprinkle of glitter, every wild idea, something extraordinary was taking shape. Just remember, kids, Jake said to the thrumming laughter surrounding him. This is our story. If we stick together, nothing can tear us apart. The rival operator's confidence faltered as he watched the joyful wave of creativity weave through the crowd. You're just fooling yourselves. He spat, frustration coloring his tone. Yet, even he couldn't resist observing the transformation as the crowd became a living, breathing force of positivity, and then it happened. With a final flourish, Max grabbed the last piece of golden star and placed it on top of the dragon's head. This is for all the kids who want to dream bigger, he declared. Let us set their imaginations free. The crowd erupted into wild applause, and Jake felt his heart swell. Max's declaration resonated like thunder, shaking the core of their passion. The rival booth operator, deflated, blurted out a final insult before turning away in defeat, his shadow shrinking, swallowed by the mass of jubilant imagination. Jake turned to the kids, who were bouncing on their feet, their eyes shining with limitless wonder. The dragon was not just a collection of toys anymore, it was a symbol of their shared fight, a representation of what it truly meant to dream together. Together, we faced fear and doubt. Jake shouted, arms wide as cheers rang through the air. So now, who is ready to share this with the world? Hands shot up. The energy burst forth like a summer storm. Their community had rallied, united in creativity and hope, ready to take this dream machine out into the world. As they basked in the warmth of their transformation, Jake felt a deep sense of peace settle over him. He had fought for his son, for his legacy, for anyone who believed in impossible dreams. There would be challenges ahead, there always were, but together, they were a force that could conquer anything, and just like that, on that bright Saturday in Lincoln Park, they stepped forward, hand in hand, ready to create a world where dreams could be more than just fantasy. They embraced the fear and uncertainty, transforming it into a journey filled with laughter and joy. Now was the time to share their story. If you've loved this journey as much as I have, now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let it know how much this journey has meant. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. What touched you the most? And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support this channel. This is the moment to show your love. Don't wait not even one more second.